Hello everyone, this is James, this is my wife Emily, and today we're going to talk about ADHD. So why are we even talking about ADHD today? The first reason is because our son Jason got diagnosed with ADHD a few months ago, and then he's having such a hard time at school. But not only children, a lot of adults are suffering from this as well. For example, a lot of people have problem manage their time or finance, and they cannot make or execute plans. And also it's hard for them to focus or stay organized, and they get distracted very easily. And this could potentially lead to a lot of mental issues as well because people are so stressed about it. Like including myself, I used to have exactly the same problems. So after our son got diagnosed, I did a lot of research on this topic with ChatGPT, and the outcome is actually fabulous. Like right now, I don't even think ADHD is a disorder anymore. I see this as a gift from God. But before we dive any deeper, first of all, what is ADHD? It's called Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, and this is a sort of neurodevelopmental disorder. It's so common nowadays. For example, in the US, about 9.8% of children aged between 3 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD, with higher rates seen in boys compared to girls. And that means if we have a class of 30 students, there are usually 2 to 3 kids that are diagnosed with ADHD. But remember, they are diagnosed, so a lot of kids are not diagnosed, which means the number is supposed to be higher. For adults, the number is around 2 to 4%, depends on countries. Now, how was ADHD found? In 1789, there was a Scottish doctor. His name was Sir Alexander Crichton. He noticed some people were easily distracted and unable to focus on their activities the way others could. So he reported that these symptoms began early in life, but it didn't gain much of attention back in the days. And misbehaved children were deeply misunderstood. Even nowadays, a lot of people, when they see misbehaved children, they will think, oh, it's their parents' problem. They got bad parenting job, or maybe it has something to do with their intelligence. Things started to change in 1902. There was a British pediatrician named Sir George Still. He did some study on this topic, and that's when the public started to recognize ADHD as a medical condition. He was like, okay, wait a second. A lot of people think this is because of poor upbringings or the kids are unintelligent. But then he found some kids growing up in a wealthy family still having the same symptoms. Why is that? So there was a chance that ADHD had nothing to do with their upbringings or their intelligence. There was something else, something deeper. But then the society and his peer didn't really like his idea because they didn't have gene technology or psychology study to prove that he was right. So he did some research to prove himself. He studied 43 children with these types of symptoms over a long period of time. He found that the children were misbehaving not because they didn't know the rules, just like Jason, right? He knew the rules, but he was just simply couldn't control himself. And that was what he called defective moral control. Even though his findings didn't really change immediately how the world sees ADHD people, but George basically planted that first seed of understanding how ADHD works. So I think Sir George Still was an amazing doctor.
那到底是什么原因呢？
So what causes it, right? Okay, it's publicly believed that ADHD is associated with changes in a specific brain area, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for regulating attention, behavior, and decision making. In people with ADHD, this region tend to develop slower or just function less effectively. But then what causes the problem in brain function and structure? Number one is genetics. This is actually the most significant factor. Studies suggest that 70 to 80% of the risk for developing ADHD is inherited. Yeah, it was me. I know it was me. Which means if a parent has ADHD, there's a high chance that children will develop ADHD as well. So number two is prenatal factors, such as exposing to harmful substances during pregnancy, like smoking, alcohol, or drugs. And that accounts for about 10 to 15%.
就是后天也是有可能的。
Yes, there's a chance, but smaller, like way much smaller than genetic factors.
大部分还是先天的。
That's right. It's actually not that bad. We're going to talk about it shortly. Number three is environmental toxins, and that accounts for about 5 to 10%, such as exposing to toxins like lead or other pollutants during pregnancy or early childhood.
这种基因不是应该就物竞天择被淘汰掉了吗？
That's
因为
a
它没有办法适应 我们的现代社会的一个发展？
That's a very good question, actually. There were actually several studies done, and the finding was amazing. The first one's called a hunter-gatherer hypothesis. There was a doctor called Dan Insenberg from Northwestern University. So he did some research on a group of people in Kenya called Arioles. And Dr. Insenberg's study found that there was a gene called DRD4, which is associated with ADHD traits like novelty-seeking or impulsivity. And the nomads with this gene can survive better in the wild.
那就是说他们在野外，因为他们这个比较发散，所以他们能够注意到更多的危险，是吗？
Yes, that's one of the reasons too. Look at people with ADHD. Small little sound can distract them easily, right? For
就
example,
比较警惕。
yeah, so they're always very cautious.
对啊，但是那是以前他能够生活得很好，那他没有办法适应现在的生活。
That's a good point as well. But actually, no. Here comes the crazy part. So if you look at ADHD from a different angle, you will realize this is actually such a powerful talent that people can't even learn to obtain. Let me explain. In 2011, there was a psychologist called Dr. White from University of Michigan. She did a study on ADHD and creativity. Dr. White found that people with ADHD perform much better in creative tasks that require divergent thinking and innovative problem solving as well. So Dr. White invited two groups of students, 30 students with ADHD and 30 students without it. They were asked to do a task called alien fruit drawing.
Alien fruit.
Alien fruit drawing, which means these fruits that they're going to create can be only existing on other planets. It must have nothing like completely different from any fruits known on Earth, such as bananas or apples.
就是它都不能从现有的这个改一个出来，它都是完全不一样的。
完全不一样, completely different.
好难啊！我现在脑子里一点想法都没有。
This is what it looks like. On the left-hand side is the non-ADHD group. On the right-hand side is the ADHD group. You can see the difference.
啊，你看这个还能看出来一点，什么西瓜呀，什么草莓呀的融合版。
But on the right-hand side, it's totally different.
哎，你知道这个就很像以前我们班吊车尾的那些同学在课本上画画就是这个风格。
So it's very likely they had ADHD as well.
确诊了，我没有，我只能画成左边那样。
我就是右边那个。The study demonstrates that individuals with ADHD might be less constrained by their prior knowledge. Now, I want you to think about entrepreneurship. Name me one successful entrepreneur that is not creative, not thinking outside of the box, with excellent problem-solving skills. Name me one. There's no one.
就太循规蹈矩的人成不了大事。
That's right. Yes, and ADHD people are very likely to be born with it.
就是天生就带有企业家的这个气质，
Yes. Sounds good, right?
但是其他的那些不能专注的症状，还是会给他们带来很多的问题
A lot
跟
of
麻
problems.
烦的，
That's right. That's
对吧？那这样的话 ，ADHD 能治吗？
Do you think I'm cured?
我要观看你现在，那应该是治好了的，就是你没有
Right.
这些问题，因为你有发散思维，但是你没有专注力的问题。
I'm laser focused. When I
你
work
很
on a
专注。
project, when I want to do something, I'm laser focused.
对，就是信息你都不回的那种。那得亏你没告诉我你小时候有，那要不然我就不嫁给你了。基因有缺陷，那能行吗？
哎，没事没事。如果哪天发生了生化危机啊，我可以去打猎啊，我可以去打猎照顾你们。我祖上肯定是很厉害的猎人啊，不然我怎么那么能好动呢？对不对？ But still, back to the topic. Now, I'm going to share with you 3 widely recognized and most effective methods for overcoming ADHD. These techniques have been helping me to focus and be good at planning. So I'm sure this could help you as well, regardless if you have ADHD or not.
那你是小时候知道自己有吗？那你怎么知道这个方法要用这些？
I had a really hard time. My learning curve was crazy because I was really frustrated. I thought I was a retard when I was a kid. Literally. Yeah. And I was like, how come other kids can be sitting there and be focused for 40 minutes during the class, but I couldn't? What's wrong with my head? What's wrong with my brain?
所以你是想专注的。
I wanted to. I really wanted to because I wanted to be good. I wanted to, I wanted my teacher to say good things about me. I wanted my parents to recognize me as a good kid, a successful kid. Who doesn't like those kind of compliments, right? So I had such a hard time going through my school life. I couldn't control myself, even though I was telling myself, hey, let's sit there for 40 minutes, look at the Look at my teacher. Listen to my teacher. I couldn't.
好难以想象。
It was a nightmare. It was a disaster. But after I grew up, I started reading a lot of books about psychology, about brain structures, and I tried to figure out what exactly was going on. And I found this term ADHD. What I'm going to tell you guys is really helpful. Like I tried it myself and it works perfectly. So the first one is called behavior therapy, in short CBT. CBT is the most effective non-medication treatment for ADHD because it directly addresses the problems inside our brain. Basically, it tracks the patterns during your day, how you function during the day, and then you write it down what exactly is going on. And then you do things accordingly to fix those problems.
它有点像心理学的那个方法，就是你要
pinpoint the problems,
你要
right?
先认知到你现在是什么情绪。
That's right. You need to pinpoint the problems and then trying to fix it. If you don't know what the problem was, what the triggers are, then how can you fix the problems, right? And there are 3 things you can do today to begin with. You can start by tracking specific moments when ADHD symptoms overwhelm you. For example, you start losing focus or acting impulsively. Write down what you were thinking and feeling. And then you challenge these thoughts by asking yourself, oh, what happened? What triggered the problem? Next time, what can I do to make it better?
就是比如说我今天写着写着作业，突然一只苍蝇飞过来，我就被吸走了。
That's right.
然后我就在我分神的时候，我就要告诉自己，哦，我分神了。今天是因为苍蝇飞过去。然后明天我分神的时候，可能又是一只苍蝇，我就知道，哦，我就特别容易被苍蝇吸引。
对，
这个意思是吧？
对，所以你学习的时候就不要有苍蝇。So basically, yeah, that's the number one thing that we can do is to track your challenges. After some time, you will see a very clear pattern of what's going on inside your brain, so you know yourself better as well. And then you start fixing one specific problem at a time, only one problem at a time.
就今天被苍蝇分神了，我先解决苍蝇的事儿。
对。
明天被什么苹果分神了，我就解决苹果的事儿。
对 ，maybe within the next few days, you only focus on this problem only. Number 2 is to set clear and realistic goals. It has to be realistic to you, make you feel comfortable doing this. Because usually large tasks look extremely scary to ADHD people like me. So I have to break them down into smaller chunks.
很多人都是这样，你看到一个很难解决的事情，大家都会觉得
naturally, right? Naturally. For example, you don't think about going to the gym for a 2 hours workout until you collapse. Instead, you'll be thinking, hey, you know what? Right now, I just want to grab my bag and get out of my house. The second task, you'll be hopping into your car and driving towards the gym. And the last thing you know, you're hustling at the gym already. Right? So you break a big task into several smaller steps. Number 3 is to practice impulse control. For example, you want to buy something. Oh, I really want to buy this. You stop for a few seconds or 1 minute. You start asking yourself some questions like, oh, is this really necessary? Do I really want to have this? What would happen if I don't get this? You start asking yourself some questions. And after, a few seconds, maybe 1 minute, this kind of feeling will start, easing. If you still want to buy it, then of course go for it.
我每次买东西之前我都这么想，然后
Can't
我都
control
想
myself.
我这2天就看那个水壶啊，我挖的那水壶，对吧？我都180个水壶了，
那就
我不需要它呀。我昨天晚上谈的，我想了半天，我不需要它，我不买它也能活，我也有水喝，然后我就下单。
That's fine. Whatever you want to buy. So that's a part of behavior therapy, CBT. And the second tip is to create structured routines. For example, you can use Google Calendar or some other apps as well to plan out your day. Now, I'm telling you, you will have hard time following through your plans, but it's okay. You know what works and what don't, and you will make changes accordingly as well, and that takes time. It's impossible you make your first plan and that's perfect, right? It takes maybe several days, maybe 2 weeks to figure out what's the best schedule for you.
这个是不是可以找 ChatGPT 帮我做，让他给我生成一个 plan， 然后我把我记录下来，每天我完成了进度是多少，
Yes,
然后再
you could.
feedback 给
You
他
could.
然后让他帮我去调整这个
Yes, you
plan.
could. That's what I'm doing right now with my fitness plan, right? I told ChatGPT that I really love playing basketball, so I want to make a fitness training plan according to my preferences. And also the result was amazing. I told him what time did I have during the day, how many times I can work out during the week, and I asked ChatGPT to make a plan according to my daily routine as well. So fill in the gaps. As we mentioned doing sports, right? The third thing that you can do is to do exercise. The reason is because doing exercises is directly impact on our brain functions. But how does doing exercise affect our brain? Basically, it boosts our neurotransmitters. So doing exercises increases the production of dopamine and serotonin, which are the chemicals that play a crucial role in regulating attention, motivation, and mood. And these kind of transmitters are often found at a very low level in individuals with ADHD, which is why many ADHD medications like stimulants work by boosting dopamine levels. Besides that, doing exercises enhance executive function as well, including working memory, flexible thinking, and self-control.
那什么样的运动比较合适呢？
Oh, the answer is cardio exercises. So for example, running, swimming, cycling, etc., etc. Now, through this research, I've noticed two things. First of all, ADHD really isn't a demon. To me, it's not even a disorder because, you know, there's a saying, if something exists, there's a reason that it's existing. And ADHD has its own purpose, obviously. So you know Naruto, right? There was a night-tailed fox sealed in Naruto's body. And when I was a kid, I always felt like the same, you know, there was a fox inside of me as well. And I had to learn to control this kind of power.
你学会了吗？你现在用回忆认输了吗？
こちら、千の地図